Oi, guys! Let's, there was a new WillE video I actually wanted to watch. We haven't watched any WillE videos for quite a while, but he uploaded one called 5 Things Warcraft Has Always Done Right, which I figured we could watch right now, guys. Okay? Oi! Let's watch this video, okay, guys? Let's see what this is about. 5 Things Warcraft Has Always Done Right.
In World of Warcraft's near 18-year history as an MMORPG, it's changed. In fact, I would go as far to say it's changed quite a bit, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. When Classic re-released in 2019 to massive worldwide success, it really became clear to what extent players did miss how things used to be, and now several years later, in its first expansion, it's still going strong. And many of
I am very excited for the next tiers of raids. Suleiman doing Sunwell Plateau for the first time is going to be super fun. And then we got leading into Wrath, man. God, it's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be so sick. Why are you under 1800 now? What happened yesterday? We dropped a lot of subs again. The subpocalypse keeps happening, Short Dane, let's be honest. But yeah, it's how it goes, man.
other MMOs have risen and fell under the name of the next WoW killer. None have succeeded. In fact, Blizzard took it upon themselves and have been having a pretty good go of doing it over the past 12 months. And it's no secret that WoW isn't the full MMO powerhouse that it once was.
Yeah,
the game that dominated not only the MMORPG scene, but online gaming as a whole. Despite everything though, it's still the home for what I believe is millions of players worldwide. And I'd wager is still easily one of the top 5 most popular MMOs to this day. And that is
for sure. Even though WoW is like on the downtrend, it's still an incredibly popular game. Also, I am very sad that I kind of quit in Kata, because like I missed out on some great content, I think. I never did Firelands. I don't think I've done any Kata raids ever, actually, because I quit like a month into Cataclysm came out. Yeah, I leveled up to max level, and then I quit like a little bit after. So I never really got to experience Cataclysm. It was kind of sad, but it's how it goes, I guess.
5 most popular MMOs to this day.
Yeah.
And that is not a mistake, because there have been some things which WoW has done over the years. These quote-unquote right decisions or gameplay aspects have been at the core of WoW for over a decade, and are no doubt some of the features that make it such a compelling world to be a part of. Obligatory mention, this is very much subjective of how I see the game, and these are my thoughts as a player since late vanilla. Also, some of these things on the list have changed over the years in how they are achieved, but I think the idea behind them remains. Okay, then let's start it as I mean to go on with something that I think people are either going to love or hate. The ways Blizzard leaves the game open for players to customize extremely heavily through add-ons and macros. A robust and simple macro system can just achieve so much, from lining up your cooldowns, queuing abilities, equipping your sword and board with a push of one key, for mouse overs for healers or focus kicks for PvPers. It opens up an extra
I feel like it's good. It's a good and a bad thing, right? Because you don't want everything to be super effectivized, right, in a way. But it is cool that you can make macros and there's add-on for things and stuff like that. It definitely does make it a lot better that you can do it like that. But it's become very extreme as well, I think, with some weak auras. They literally can like play the game for you in a way. But you know, I agree with that. I think I would say add-ons bad for PvP. It depends, right? Depends.
layer of convenience.
It's cool that it's customizable,
to find solutions to in-game problems that they may have. And when you find out about macros and how deep they can go, it's kind of crazy. You can use macros, or I suppose in this case commands, to check whether or not you've completed a quest. You can play in-game boss sounds or speeches.
Energy. Power.
But you can.
My people are addicted to it.
A macro on
I guess it only plays for you then.
To let somebody know they have the tainted core is pretty standard. They simply have so many uses, and to me have always made the game overall better. This is a system which has existed since vanilla from day one of the game, and over the years has been refined. Some functionality has been removed, such as cast random comes to mind, but it's still there in Shadowlands. I think the macro system...
Oh yeah, wasn't there like, I remember back, was it in Wrath or Kata? There was some class, I can't remember which, that like had their entire class in like a cast random macro to like do DPS for them. And they just literally clicked that one ability and it just like did a cast random sequence or something like that. It might have been Death Knights actually, that had like a cast random thing, and they just put their entire DPS thing in that one thing and they played with that. It was a meme. It was like obviously not the best, but it was like, it was actually like pretty good. Enhanced Shaman, I can't remember which it was necessarily, but it could honestly have been anything. Yeah, Hunters had the same thing in TBC with the steady shot macro, right? You just spam the steady shot macro and it would do it for you. But that was just one ability, so that, you know, that was just one. But yeah.
For WoW has been a big positive and is something that should be considered at an early stage in many games.
Yeah.
And whilst the macros can be directly mediated by Blizzard, you then have the ways that they let players, well, have a massive degree of control over how their game looks, what features they want, and how much they can customize it through the use of add-ons. Now, add-ons haven't always been a positive. During Wrath of the Lich King, they were used for players to try and gatekeep lower geared people out of context.
Gear score. Oh my god, dude. I think it's a good and a bad thing, right? A gear score is like it's a good and a bad thing, man, because it's good having some sort of a gauge to see like if you want to get people in or not, but I remember very specifically equipping a lot of really, really bad gear that just had more gear score so I could get invited to the raid. And then once I was inside the raid, I would unequip that high gear score gear for some actual like stuff that fit my character, but it was worse. But it was like I kind of cheated my entry into the raid, right? By equipping, like, let's say I had a really good tanking item, but I was joining as a DPS. So I equipped all the big tanking gear I had as long as it was higher item level, and I got into the raid, and I unequipped it afterwards. It was so bad. Everybody did that? Yeah, I think so too. It was so bad. Ay. And I remember as well with the Kingslayer attunement, wasn't there like an add-on as well where you literally could fake the Kingslayer achievement as well, because people wanted you to link the Kingslayer achievement and gear score, so you could literally fake the whole thing just to get invited. And then, like, obviously when you were in the raid, you would just do trash TPS because you were under geared, but still, right? It was so bad. Fake achievements were a thing, yeah.
Content through the gear score add-on. In fact, people would equip items that had absolutely zero relevance to their specialization solely to appear as though they had a higher gear score, aka better gear. During Classic, a player accepted a custom weak aura, which when they went to open their mail, instantly sent their entire cash stack to another player, which was 30,000 gold of legitimately farmed money. Some would say add-ons hold your hand too much, that they've made raiding easy. DBM or Deadly Boss mods definitely makes it much easier to predict when mechanics will happen and who will deal with them and how. Recount and details have allowed players to directly track and monitor and analyze performance. Who is doing the most damage? When did people die in a fight? What from?
It's just how people play now. Like, it's just everything. It's not even just WoW this thing is. It's just any game is so, like, you know, effectivized now and so, like, min-maxed at this point, you know?
Lack of heals? Did they stand in the fire? Was it something else? Everything can and will be measured. Some people don't like that aspect of add-ons, but in return, they can offer so much else. They made the auction house not completely terrible up to the point when it was finally worked in BFA. They make it so if you don't like your UI, you can completely change it to something you find much more palatable, or maybe
the standard UI will always be the best UI. I don't want to discuss it with anyone. I don't want to like argue about it. The standard UI is the best. If you just scale the UI down a little bit, it looks the best. I don't care, guys. It's the truth. I don't all those weird UIs where people make their own Xpearl or unit frames or whatever they do. Standard UI is the best. That's how it is.
Be something completely terrible, and they have over time become much easier to get hold of, keep track of, and to update too. And just like macros, they have always been about, and I think Blizzard leaving it
scaled down with no griffins is POG. I agree. Scaled down UI without the griffins, that's the best you can get. It doesn't get any better than that.
In the players' hands for the most part has
in
been
my
something
opinion,
which has been a positive for WoW. Okay, next then, the combat in the game. It's probably the point out of everything I'm going to talk about here which has changed the most. It went from Classic and TBC to where you get your DPS rotation button and you just press that repeatedly. Warlock player here speaking from experience. In Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, things gradually became a bit more complicated as we integrated the idea of haste breakpoints and snap.
Vashir was insane. Best leveling zone they ever made. Also, you can say what you want about WoW and the game and how it's become, but they goddamn nailed the combat feeling. The tap targeting and like the movement of WoW is like almost unparalleled in any other MMO. I really think that's something that they just did so good, man. Like the feeling of when you're running around and pushing your buttons and stuff, it feels so smooth. I like it. I feel like a lot of MMOs, they feel really like, they feel almost too realistic in a way. It's like, it's almost like an RPG, right? It's not, I don't know what it is. It's like that, those sharp movements in WoW that I really like. I really like that a lot. The power flow, the flower farm in Vashj'ir was so bad. I liked Vashj'ir a lot when I was playing. But yeah, that's just how it is for me, right? Movement and camera movement is involved. It's miles of an MMO. I think so too. I would say so too for sure. Invites are up. Okay, I'm gonna take the invites in a sec here.
Snapshotting. In Warlords of Draenor, those were removed and damage updated dynamically, and then in Legion and onwards, Blizzard have added systems upon top of systems to mix and try and spice things up.
Oh my God.
But it's not just the feel of the combat or the responsiveness that WoW has always had, it's the style, how the combat is delivered. Many MMOs have tried to sort to differ themselves to WoW by offering a new style of combat, and no, we're not going to devolve this into action versus tab, which is better. That's purely subjective, and I've heard
that's true. I don't really mind like the action combat, but it's more so the feel. Like I don't know what it is, man. It feels good running around in WoW, like with the sharp movements and stuff. Like I remember when I was playing, was it New World or was it Ashes of Creation? I think Ashes of Creation. Fair enough, it wasn't an alpha, but the movement just feels so like clunky when you run around. It's like you have to like do a little swing when you run. You can't just do like sharp corners, right? It felt kind of like off a little bit, but to be fair to them, Ashes is in an alpha state, right? But yeah,
plenty of time that tab is just a relic of the past of a combat system.
Lost Ark movement is weird as well. I think I disagree with that. I don't think I agree with that. I actually don't really. I really like the Lost Ark movement, but that's because I have played a lot of MOBAs before. I played a lot of like Warcraft 3. I played a lot of StarCraft. I played League of Legends and stuff like that. So I'm fine with the movement style of Lost Ark. So I don't think necessarily that's an issue. It's more so like I feel like the MMOs where you see it from the behind the character, right? I don't know what it's called at PUV, but yeah, like that. I really don't mind Lost Ark click to move, but yeah. League,
makes sense because of technical limitations.
Third person,
action is the future. Maybe it is.
Third person,
and
yes.
There are certainly many new games, especially MMOs, offering action instead of tab. But WoW has always been the standard in what to expect from a tab combat system, and I think it's played a part in its success, partly due to the visual feedback of actions, the no delay, the sound effects, but mainly it's just much less intensive in many settings. For example, one of the problems that WildStar had as a game was how draining the raid content was when you had to be 100% switched on all of the time. Fights would have randomized telegraphs, which you
never played WildStar, so I can't really speak about that. I still prefer third person to top down. I hope Riot will make a third person style. Yeah, I think for an MMO, I prefer third person as well. I think top down is not the greatest for an MMO, but yeah, that's just how I see it too. But yeah, I agree. I think it's the same. I think it's the same for shooters. I prefer it to be first person. Like I like the first person Resident Evil games a lot more than like the third person. Not because like the gameplay is worse or anything. I just feel like it's more immersive playing first person in a shooter game, right? The same thing with an MMO. It's more immersive playing third person than top down. Yeah. Thank you though, Fear the Darkness. Thank you so much.
Had to dodge. This leads to, in my opinion, an issue that can be found in high-end content in a lot of action combat games. It always seems to boil down to, can you press spacebar at the right time or you're going to get one shot. I've raided personally at all levels in WoW, and sometimes even on the hardest fights you just don't get any mechanics that target you personally. Again, this is going to be a personal preference here, but I feel that WoW having taken and stuck to tab has been a good thing for it. Next one here is, I think, something which most people will be able to agree on. The actual world in the world of Warcraft. The sound design, the art direction, cinematics, cutscenes, and so on. Even at the time when World of Warcraft released, it frankly just looked a lot better than other fantasy worlds which were available at the time. And I'd say we can...
I think it looks good, and they were so smart with the art style. Cartoony like art styles stand up so much better to the test of time than realistic art style does. Because a lot of MMOs try to go for that realistic style, and no matter when you release like a realistic style of MMO or like any video game, it's gonna look outdated within a few years. But like any like cartoony game like Fortnite, League of Legends, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft, like games like that, they just look good. Like even if it's like Zelda looks great, Breath of the Wild, I mean heck, even Banjo and Kazooie, right? Like I don't know, man. I can go back and play Banjo Kazooie and it's fine, right? But it's that art style, like it's cool. I don't mind it at all. Super Mario 64 still looks all right. Like it stands up a lot better if it's cartoon. Imagine if Zelda Ocarina of Time was made to be like a super realistic looking game, right? Like that would not look good anymore, right? Banjo-Kazooie stream? Dude, I love Banjo-Kazooie, man. But yeah.
And all list some of the best zones from each expansion in our own experiences. And even if the expansion itself was a bit of a flop, I mean, Warlords of Draenor gave us Frostfire Ridge, Battle for Azeroth gave us Drustvar, and so on. Warlords of Draenor also had some of the best overall cinematics we've ever seen come out of an expansion. How many people do you think?
I was so hyped when they released, what were they called? The Warbringers? Those like little short cartoons about like all the Warlords of Draenor orcs. Like, oh my god, I was so hyped about that, dude. They really baited me in with those cinematics, dude. Oh my god, like the Black Hand one, the Grommash one, they were all so good. Lords of War, exactly, that was, yeah, Lords of War. It was so good. Oh, Warbringers was BFA. Okay, I meant the Lords of War from what? That was so good. Like the art department always carried hard.
I think that initial cutscene with Garrosh.
I do too,
Nomson. Press the resubscribe button.
I actually loved Warlords of Draenor leveling. I thought it was great.
And along the Warbringer series to introduce each of the Warlords of Draenor itself. We've gone from the deserts of Uldum to an entire underwater zone in Vashj'ir to the center of the world in Deepholm. And that was just the Cataclysm. And I always used to play with all the in-game sounds on too, because the internet was so bad you couldn't stream anything else without it lagging the game. So I got used to some of my favorite zones, not only in appearance, but in their soundtrack too. Always been a bit...
It's actually something I don't do. I don't really listen to WoW. Like, I usually, because I stream always, so I just have like some music in the background, but it's something I should probably try doing. Like at some point, maybe when we do, maybe once like Wrath comes out, we should try to do the leveling and just like have the in-game music. Try to like just get immersed a little bit, right? Because it's something I rarely do anymore. I don't really pay much attention to the sound design anymore in WoW. But maybe once we play Wrath and we do Wrath leveling, we should probably just listen to in-game music maybe. Maybe that could be fun.
Bit of a nice
because Wrath have great music.
Enjoyer, personally. Though expansions are good or bad, the look and sound of WoW has remained a consistent staying point throughout. Next up, PvE. Instance PvE, dungeons, raids, scenario, mythic plus, challenge mode, 5-man, 10-man, 25-man, mythic, heroic, LFR, and well, you get the idea.
That was a lot
of it, and it's changed quite a bit throughout the history of the game, specifically leaning towards creating several entry points for players to get involved with World of Warcraft's PvE content. And for a game called Warcraft, many people play it for the PvE content instead, and the majority of the time they've been enjoyable. Sure, we all have that one dungeon we hate, or that one raid fight where you just get an annoying mechanic. It's not just what's in the raids boss-wise, but how well over the years Blizzard has adapted to creating a challenge for the top-end players, to the point where they can barely squeeze a kill with a perfectly optimized raid, all the way down to having normal modes where players can learn the ropes for the content. And
again, Vashj'ir, best leveling zone they ever made. But I agree. I actually agree. I think they've always done a really good job at making dungeons and raids really cool in the game. I think so. Like even for a person like me that don't really play a lot of retail anymore, I still really love watching Race to World First. It's fun. It's so sick.
LFR, though even Blizzard themselves have reflected on it, saying it was probably
a
mistake and not well implemented, is used by many players to follow along the story of the current expansion. Whilst the hurdles required to get into raids and maintain a character have gotten a bit excessive under the weight of numerous systems, what lies within those instances has remained a strong point for WoW from the very start. And finally, making the old content relevant. Okay, this one is a bit more of a recent thing, I'll give you that. And it has also changed a whole bunch in meaning over the years. In vanilla, older content was kept relevant because of how gearing worked. The same in TBC, largely, in fact. Many powerful items dropped from the earlier raids that even later on were difficult to replace, or that ended up being badges which you could later spend on gear as well. This sort of changed in Wrath of the Lich King, where each new patch became a bit of a soft reset for gear, where the new stuff was almost just always better. On top,
I like that, like, some gear, like, you know, like DST, you still can use DST, you can even still use badge from like AQ40, like, you know, the belt from Lady Vash, Tsunami Talisman. There's still so many items from the previous tiers you can use. I think that's sick. I like that.
Of there being badges as well. It was also in Wrath of the Lich King that achievements came into the game, giving players a reason to actually want to go back and do older content again, to collect mounts or pets or whatever it may be. The Cataclysm would bring along the transmog system on top of this, allowing your character to take on the appearance of any armor set. The demand to do old content was really starting to become attractive. In later expansions, Blizzard would purposefully label content that was old as legacy, disabling tier sets and giving players massive buffs, whilst also removing mechanics that prevented soloing raids for the purposes of collection. And we all know how Blizzard loves to reuse an asset. Work smarter, not harder, right? Max 40 in vanilla? Let's bring that back as 10 and 25 in Wrath of the Lich King. They also redid Elixir in Wrath as well. The Molten Core Raid Anniversary event, time-walking dungeons, giving players a chance to go back and see content that they may never have got the opportunity to have done. Blizzard has even done time-walking raids. Sure, you could go back to those raids as a level cap player and just one-shot everything, but this gave you a bit of a better look at them and how they actually were without any of the progression, but still, it was something to experience. Well-remembered raids such as the Black Temple and Ulduar have featured on time walking. Features on top of
time walking is cool, yeah. I get that. It's more like it's a little bit of a nostalgic bait, but like I get it, right? It's cool. It does suck a little bit though. Like the bigger World of Warcraft gets, like the bigger the world becomes, the less big it feels, right? Like it becomes larger, but it feels smaller because so much of the other world and the content becomes obsolete in a way, and that does suck a little bit, I think.
Features have been brought back from the past. The Mage Tower was welcomed back to Shadowlands with open arms as a piece of content people enjoyed from Legion. The Brawl Arena from Mists of Pandaria has seen several iterations over the years, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Brawl Arena in Season 2 of Classic would totally fit the style of the game. Who doesn't want to laugh at other people getting one-shot by a penguin after all? What I'm saying is, when the content is old and wouldn't see much use anymore, find a way to bring it back. MMORPGs have massive volumes of content spanning years and years. Burning everything once it's not current would be a huge waste. Now, I will say
that's what Final Fantasy does really well, right? even if you just think max level, you can still do all the content, like for all the expansions, and that's pretty cool. I think like everything is still relevant, and I think that's pretty badass. That's something Final Fantasy really does a lot better than WoW, I think.
Blizzard does not do a good job of doing this during a current expansion at all, and the content's current life cycle is very short, and this has been the case since Wrath of the Lich King, I want to say. But overall, many players, after having done the story and the main quests on the current expansion, only play in the past content because there's just so much of it, and they have reasons to do so, and if it keeps people interested and engaged, well, I think that's a positive for the game, and one that it continues to do. That is it then, just 5 things, despite the drama, despite the passing of time, that I think Blizzard has done right with World of Warcraft, and some of the aspects which continue to ensure its widespread popularity as a game. Let me know your thoughts on everything, and how you think everything has changed over time, and whether these are spot on, or it's something else entirely that's keeping people going. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.
Well, there it is. All right, good video, man. I like that.